Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
To another edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And, wow, Gregory Jackson is back on the Armstrong Williams Show. And he has so much to say. You know, I read everything he sends over, which is constantly. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hopefully not too constantly, Armstrong. I don't want to be on your bad side.
Oh, it's a good thing. You know what? I don't want to get into the fact that you never supported Romney, thought he was a bad candidate. But before I want to get into that, how do you address the fact of what's permeating the country now, that the GOP needs to get the message that unless the name is Cruz, Rubio, or Herman Cain, white Protestant Catholic men need not apply anymore? Your days of being president of the United States are over.
Well, yeah, I certainly think that there's a messaging problem and a demographic issue, obviously, with the GOP. And I think a lot of that, Armstrong, I mean, you're much more experienced in the political arena than I am, but I will say that I think that most of the people running the GOP are so out of touch with the way America looks right now and what actually appeals to Americans and what their interests are. I mean, the Republican Party talks about values, and Mitt Romney spent 6 months going around the country talking in platitudes about mourning in America, and Americans are interested in solutions. They want to know how they're going to be able to feed their family. And you have Mitt Romney, you know, who opposed supported the TARP for the biggest banks and the crony capitalists on Wall Street, and yet he opposed the bailout for the auto industry. And you wonder why some guy who's got to feed his family in Cleveland, Ohio, that works for the Chrysler plant, voted for Barack Obama, because Barack Obama solved his problem. And so I think that the problem, Armstrong, is more an issue of whether the Republican Party understands who their core demographic is. And I'm not talking race or male or female. I'm talking about the fact of the matter is that the Republican Party, I don't believe, understands who their core constituency are, their core base that wins them elections. And I believe that if you look at history, Armstrong, and I know you were around for both of the Reagan landslides, our country might look a little differently in terms of the color of our skin, but predominantly this is a right-of-center country. And the fact of the matter is, socially and economically, and the fact of the matter is that the Republican Party put up a candidate this time around, as they did in 2008, who essentially spent his entire career undermining those very same principles. And we wonder why we continue to lose, because we put up losers who don't stand for the things that the core of the Republican Party, the values voters, evangelical Christians and Catholics who care deeply, Armstrong, about the great moral and social issues of our day. I mean, can you imagine in the days of slavery if politicians like Abraham Lincoln and others weren't talking about slavery and saying, oh, it's the economy? I'm sorry, but we have an abortion holocaust, 4,000 babies a day, and you have the candidate for the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln and Reagan, going around the country running pro-abortion ads in key swing states and saying that abortion and marriage and Chick-fil-A isn't part of his campaign. And we wonder why the base didn't show up on Election Day.
So you feel that no party can win without their base solidly behind them?
Absolutely, Armstrong. I mean, look, I don't agree with anything Barack Obama believes in, but I'll give him credit for this. he is uncompromising. He's 0-32, I believe, in homosexual marriage, and yet the guy still pounds the pavement for what he believes in, still advocating on behalf of homosexuals marrying one another. And so the Democrats and Barack Obama got their base out. Why? Because, I mean, look, Romney did win independence, but you don't win on election day without your base. And so they got it mixed up. It's like I'm in sales, and it's the 80-20 rule, Armstrong. I know you're a smart businessman. 20% of your customers do 80% of your business. If you don't, that's your base. If you don't have your base licking envelopes and making calls and walking precincts and giving you money, you're not going to win. And the fact of the matter is, while he did have some of that, he still wasn't able to beat probably the most unpopular president in the history of the United States, because he didn't get his base out enthusiastically enough and in large enough numbers, and Barack Obama did. You can't win without your base on election day.
So what was Romney's base in this election?
Well, I think that essentially Romney's appeal was that he wasn't Barack Obama. And that, every time I would ask somebody, Armstrong, why is it that you're voting for Romney? Well, he's not as bad as Obama, and we just got to get Obama out there. Nothing positive about what Romney himself stood for, but it was always a negative vote against Obama, and I don't think that's ever a winning strategy. So I think his base were basically disaffected, disenfranchised, angry, mostly white voters who did not want Barack Obama back in the White House. And, frankly, their candidate didn't articulate an authentic conservative message that was credible and believable, frankly, Armstrong, because I think we both know that that's not really in Mitt Romney's heart. He doesn't really hold that worldview or that authentic conservative philosophy. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, winning independence, the Republican Party is always telling us, we got to win independence. It's always the squishy middle. Well, you do have to win independence, but first you got to win your base. And so we got it reversed in 2008 and 2012. And by the way, a shameless little plug for our book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, Where the Christian Right Went Wrong and How to Make America Right Again. That the core message from our book, what we tried to warn people about, played out on election night. We warned people that if we are to return America back to the way in which we grew up, right, and to restore righteousness back into America, then we have to put first things first, which is standing for what God says is important, and the things that God says we must be obedient to and not compromise on. When we continue to compromise those things for political gain and for access to power and just for the sake of winning because we're not as bad as the other guy, I think that's a recipe for disaster and failure. So until we start majoring in the majors, and until Christians say, no, I'm not going to cheapen my vote to vote for a baby killer. You wrote about it in your wonderful book, Reawakening Virtues, which, by the way, I have to commend you for. Every American citizen needs to read your book, Armstrong, because until the virtues that you talk about are biblical virtues, and until we begin putting God first and politics second, nothing is going to change in this country, because the God of the Bible and reawakening virtues, as you write about in your book, and living by those virtues, and not cheapening our vote by voting for the quote-unquote lesser of two evils candidates, nothing will change in this country.
You're listening to our guest, Greg Jackson, a very provocative discussion. So you don't agree with the narrative that's being peddled around the country that America has changed, the demographics have changed, the virtues, the ethics, the values, the morality has changed, and we need to adjust to these changes. Because I said, you know what? That's crazy.
I agree with you, Armstrong. Look, the fact of the matter is, even if that were the case, you and I as Christians, that doesn't matter to us, because we know the rock on which we stand. We stand on the rock, the solid rock that doesn't, not shifting sand. And so when, certainly if you look at the demographics, if you look at the polling, you will see that there has been some changes in terms of numbers of evangelical Christians, and while they might not be as large as they once were in the past, the pro-life, pro-family, evangelical, and conservative Catholic base of the Republican Party is still enormous, and it's still probably the largest voting bloc in America. So, yes, even though we are more of a pagan society, the fact of the matter remains that we are still a center-right country philosophically in terms of our worldview. The problem is that we don't have leaders that can actually inspire those type of people to follow them and to vote for them. And as I said earlier, that needs to change. So anybody that's going around, and the narrative that you're hearing right now is, oh, the Republicans, need to soften their approach. Romney was way too extreme, radical to the right. Now, Armstrong, I don't know about you, but I laugh when I hear that, because we both know Romney's record. We know he was the founding father of sodomy-based marriage in Massachusetts, the $50 copay abortion, forced Catholic charities to dispense abortifacients even though he wasn't required to by law, opposes bans on homosexual Boy Scout masters. I mean, this guy was as far to the left, probably the most liberal Republican governor in the history of the Republic, and the guy even ran a center-left campaign in the closing days, running these pro-abortion ads and reaffirming his opposition to bans on homosexual scoutmasters. I mean, it's crazy to think. It's one thing for liberals to say that, because of course they want us to nominate another loser liberal again. But for Charles Krauthammer and some of these folks over at Fox News,
Greg, hold there. We're coming back. Oh boy, it's hot today. Greg Jackson, talk show host himself and author. Don't go away. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
I actually watched Karl Rove's meltdown on Fox during election night when he had to face the realization that Romney would lose Ohio, and how they were almost apologetic to him. And I said to myself, I mean, why is the media, Fox on one extreme, MSNBC on the other, and the liberal and the other media, why they're in so bad with these candidates where they protect them and don't even allow the truth be told? That's just not good for our republic, Greg.
It's not a good Christian witness when we demand that people at MSNBC stop lying to their audience, stop covering up for Barack Obama when we're guilty of the very same thing. It's called hypocrisy. Jesus said, take the plank out of your own eye before you attempt to remove the speck. God will not honor that type of hypocrisy. That's what we write about in our book. That's what you write about in Reawakening Virtues. And yes, I noticed the same meltdown, Armstrong. Karl Rove looked like he was going to cry. He literally looked like he was going to cry.
Greg.
Pardon me?
It was unreal.
It was unreal, but in one sense, I was thankful to God that maybe now, and we're hopeful, that Christians will have come to the end of the rope and they will have seen that this strategy of placing the flag above the cross is a failed strategy. Because, look, if this country is going to be saved, it's going to have to judgment starts in the house of the Lord. We need to repent. We need to stop selling ourselves short and voting for child-murdering, pro-abortion candidates. And we need to tell them from the very beginning, we are not going to sell our birthright for a pottage of stew. We're not going to do it anymore. So, and in my opinion, Karl Rove, Reince Priebus, and who runs the RNC, all of these folks at Fox need to be ignored, excommunicated, and Christians need to say, we're going to turn off Fox, we're going to read our Bibles more and Fox less, and we're going to vote biblically, and we're going to get involved, because nothing will change if we continue to reward bad behavior. It's like my 7-year-old. When he does something bad, I punish him because I love him. And God loves us enough to discipline the sons that he loves. I believe we're being disciplined, but I believe that probably the better of the two scenarios, 8 years of Romney versus 4 years of Obama, maybe 4 years of Obama might get us straight in terms of our priorities, Armstrong, and might reawaken our virtues.
Explain that in more detail.
Well, look. If you look at George Bush and what he did in 8 years, in terms of expanding the welfare state, in terms of No Child Left Behind, in terms of Medicare Part D, in terms of doing nothing about illegal immigration, in terms of funding Planned Parenthood at a greater rate than Bill Clinton did. The wolf in sheep's clothing is always more dangerous to the flock than the wolf in wolf's clothing. Mitt Romney was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Everybody knows who Barack Obama is, and now at least there might be some semblance of an opposition in Congress to hold him off from further pushing America into socialism in the world government. There might be a vibrant opposition, whereas with Mitt Romney, I think his agenda would have been very similar to Obama's, and I think it would have been rubber stamped by John Boehner, who to me is absolutely worthless and needs to be replaced. And so I'm one of those people. I wanted neither of them to win. I voted for another candidate. People say I wasted my vote, but I don't think I did. But I think that now, if we still have one more opportunity to get it right and to put our money where our mouth is, but it will start with the church, it will start with Christians not compromising on the things that God has told us we can't compromise on. Not looking for a perfect candidate, but certainly we cannot support these pro-abortion, pro-homosexual, socialist, crony capitalist, inarticulate, empty suits, Republican hacks like Mitt Romney and John McCain and Jeb Bush and all these other people. Some of the names that you mentioned, Bobby Jindal, I think, maybe some younger up-and-comers, excuse me. I think there needs to be. There's certainly the older generation needs to move over, and I think a younger generation needs to replace them. But first and foremost, a younger generation with a biblical worldview that they're willing to apply as civil magistrates.
Is it unfair to label them conservative values? Aren't they much more than that? They're just values which are universal.
Well, yeah, some of those are. I mean, God placed on the heart of man. I mean, whether we're a believer or an unbeliever, Armstrong, I mean, the rain rains on the righteous and the unrighteous. And so you can go to any country in the world, and whether it's a Christian nation or not, even a Muslim nation, you know that it's wrong to just walk up to somebody and murder them, because God has encoded that in our DNA, the natural law. So, but when I talk about biblical values, I'm talking about the sanctity of the biblical role of civil government, the biblical role of the civil magistrate, and I'm talking about issues such as the sanctity of human life, which, by the way, yeah, you don't necessarily have to be a Bible-believing Christian to oppose child murder or the mainstreaming of homosexuality. But certainly, those who do have a biblical worldview are far more likely to hold those values and beliefs. I don't know if that made any sense, but...
Greg Jackson, you know what? Look, I just think that we have far more in common, that we allow the networks, we allow these politicians to divide us, where we don't think there's a value to someone else unless they agree with us, and we dismiss people, we demonize them. But you know what? Everybody is irreplaceable until they die. Everyone has value. How do we get that across? We actually want the same thing. It's these politicians and these elected officials that does us a disservice because they are being controlled by lobbyists and special interest groups.
No, you're absolutely right, Armstrong. Look, people say to me that we had a realistic choice. I agree with Dr. Alan Keyes. I mean, look, this is a sham one party. People say we have two parties. It's one party, essentially, with very few exceptions. And they're each in on the game. Most of them are padding their own pockets at the expense of we the people. We don't have truly representative government. I mean, look, the election comes down to what, a handful of states? Everything else is gerrymandered and jerry-rigged. Most incumbents stay in office forever. And, the little plebes out here, we just have to get an extra job or two to fund the welfare state. And so when people realize that why government exists, which is so that our elected representatives would represent our core values and beliefs, and that they're not our leaders, they're not our kings, and that they work for us and that we don't work for them. Until people get that straight and stop, like I said before, supporting bad behavior, excusing bad behavior, rewarding bad behavior, nothing will change. But we the people, and that's why we wrote our book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, is to encourage people, Christians specifically, but all Americans, to stand for what is right. Instead of these issues being right versus left, it should be right versus wrong, Armstrong, as you say in your book, Reawakening Virtues. We are on the same page, but nothing will change unless Christians specifically realize and recognize that they are the ones doing the hiring. And when they stop compromising and selling out and supporting these quote-unquote lesser of two evils candidates, we're just going to get more of this. We're going to get the government we deserve, frankly.
We do have the government we deserve.
Yes, we do, Armstrong. Amen. People say, I want my country back. You hear that all the time, these irate, like, old white guy on TV, I want my country back, right? Well, you want your country back, then stop disobeying God. Then obey God. Then stop being a hypocrite and covering up for people like Mitt Romney when you accuse Barack Obama of many of the same things that Mitt Romney was guilty for. Stop being a hypocrite and put your money where your mouth is and stop compromising. And I know this might sound harsh to some of your listeners, but there are millions of Americans out there who they're so into this cult of personalities. They got to be on the winning team, Team Republican. Let's go Republicans. Got to beat those Democrats. And until we get honest with ourselves and recognize the fact that there's very little difference between these two parties, and that we need to be supporting politicians as individuals and what they stand for, and not just the party that they're affiliated with. Washington warned against the factions that political parties would lead to, and he was pretty prescient as our first president, because this is what we're seeing right now. And I'm hoping that if anything good comes out of this election, Armstrong, it's that we as a Christian people look at where the country is at, and we realize that we have to stop compromising in the political arena by supporting, by enabling this sham one-party system, and that we have to raise the standard higher and let our elected representatives know that if they can't meet the standard, then they won't get our vote. Let me give you one quick example. My co-author Steve Deace, who's a nationally syndicated radio show host out of Iowa, some people say he's the gatekeeper, the presidential gatekeeper for the Iowa caucuses, who essentially was responsible for Mike Huckabee's getting the nomination in 2008. Well, this time around, Armstrong, Steve sent a pledge out, personhood pledge for Personhood USA, essentially opposing all abortions and saying that every preborn baby is protected under law, and it would essentially outlaw abortion. And he said, I will not vote for you until at the very least you sign this pledge. And so within 24 hours, every single person running for president signed the pledge except for Mitt Romney. But what does that show you?
Hold there. Don't hold that. We're coming back. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. Please continue that because that was important. Greg, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to give a real-world application of how this can be done, that we the people still do have some power. if we choose to exercise it, which is that Steve Deace, for any of your listeners who might not have heard it, this talk radio show host and friend of mine, put out the offer to all of the presidential candidates in the 2012 election on the Republican side to sign the Personhood USA Pledge, which essentially would bind them to supporting personhood legislation on the state and national level to end all child murder. And so every single candidate running for president, Armstrong, signed that pledge, except for Mitt Romney, who didn't even sign the Susan B. Anthony pledge, but that's another story for another time. But the fact of the matter is that within 24 hours, every single candidate signed that pledge. And why? The question is why? Well, the answer is because Steve said, if you want my this is a hiring thing. This is a business deal. You're going to be my representative. I'm doing the hiring. I have the power and authority. If you want my endorsement, you have to sign, you have to promise to enforce the inalienable right to life for all human persons that are created in the image of God from conception to natural death. And within 24 hours, they signed it. So I think we need to encourage, we need to raise the standard, and we need to tell them very directly that we will not support any candidates that will not protect and defend the inalienable right to life, that will not protect and defend God's institution of marriage. Quite simply, there has to be some line in the sand, some non-negotiables that we use as the plumb line, Armstrong, and demand of our elected representatives. But like you said earlier, we get the government that we deserve. It's like we're the parents that we deserve to be. When we don't discipline our children, we just encourage bad behavior. And when we choose to do the hard work of disciplining our children, and I hate to spank my young boy, but sometimes I have to. And then we pray, and I give him a big hug afterwards, and hopefully there's a lesson learned. But I do it because I love him enough that I don't want to encourage bad behavior that's going to get him in trouble in the future. And if we love God and we love our brothers and sisters in Christ, then we will be obedient to God and will encourage our brothers and sisters to be obedient to God and to not compromise on the things that God specifically says that we are not to compromise on. Then and only then will we come close to getting the government that will reawaken virtue in this country and that we deserve.
Joining the conversation now is an elected official, state representative out of the state of Texas. Representative Carter, how are you today?
How are you doing, Armstrong?
That's fine. We're also joined by Greg Jackson. What were your thoughts on the latest presidential race and the results?
Well, of course, I'm extremely disappointed. And
why are you disappointed?
Well, I'm disappointed because I think our country is truly headed toward Greece, and we're going to have a projected $4 trillion of additional debt over the next 4 years. And I think that those are serious numbers, and I think Governor Romney ran a great race and worked very hard, and we have to look forward to turning our country around in other ways in the next election.
Are you that saddened, Greg? Do you share those sentiments?
Absolutely not. Crying. There's crying in the evening, but what? There's morning comes, and it's a new day. And so, look, the fact of the matter is that I knew all along that when the Republican Party runs a liberal, they lose, especially national elections. It's not necessarily the case in statewide or smaller regional elections. But in a national election, you don't win without your base. So we saw the handwriting on the wall a long time ago. But I think that that God has given us an opportunity to get it right in the next 4 years. As I mentioned earlier, maybe the representative wasn't on listening to the show, but my major point was that I believe, in actuality, 8 years of Romney would have given this country, especially Christians and conservatives, a false sense of security. That there was going to be a conservative agenda advanced. If we look at what happened under George Bush, we got bigger government, we got bigger deficits, we got more funding for Planned Parenthood under Bush than we did under Clinton, And so I think that this is an opportunity that I'm looking forward to for Christians specifically and conservatives across the country to stop compromising and rewarding bad behavior, and to stop this I believe very flawed mindset of voting for the quote-unquote lesser of two evils, because I don't think that God will bless it.
Representative Carter, how do you respond to conservatives like Greg Jackson that were vehemently against candidate Romney because he felt it compromised our own principles and values and the things that we believe in?
Well, I think that Dick Morse, in his recent analysis of why we lost this election, had interesting points that speak to what we need to do as a party to win the next election. And I don't think we need to compromise any values whatsoever. So I do agree with him in that regard. I think that we have to, as a party, continue to reach out to our minorities or single women and our youth, and I fall into all three categories, and be effective in our messaging, and particularly with regard to messaging on the ground. And I think that President Obama's campaign did a good job of getting involved in the grassroots, and the Republicans need to do the same thing.
You're a graduate from Harvard. You are an elected official in the state of Texas. You consider yourself a minority. Obviously, I think the basic question that I want to put on the table, are we finding all that we need in a two-party system? Are we best represented in the kind of system we have set up today, Representative Carter?
Well, I think that we are, and the reason for that, and I think the demographics I mentioned, the youth, the minorities, and the single women, I think that the Republican Party has the values that can capture all three of those, or four, depending on how you define minority, Latino, and Black, of those demographics. We believe in, as you know, living within our means. We believe that religion is good. We believe that there are opportunities in the Republican Party to advance an economic agenda. We believe that the death penalty, and I think that, and particularly with regard to fiscal issues, I think that Republicans need to continue to reach out and share those messages of we can turn the economy around, we can get you jobs, particularly as unemployment rates continue to remain high.
Greg?
Yeah, well, I think it's rather than get into discussion on third parties and whatnot,
But you're not satisfied with Romney.
No,
you're not satisfied with President Obama. Where are you going to find the satisfaction?
Well, again, if you look at the Republican Party platform, boy, wouldn't it be great if Republicans actually were bound by that platform and didn't run candidates like Romney that have spent their entire careers undermining it. So I have no problem with the Republican Party. I am actually a registered Republican here in Colorado. But what I do have a problem with are candidates who won't actually abide by the platform or advance the platform, and in many cases spend their entire careers undermining the platform. So, again, I think that the fundamental answer to our problem is, and I would agree with Representative Carter, that, the Republican Party has done a terrible job. George Bush did a better job making inroads among minorities, especially in the Hispanic community in 2004 especially. But the fact of the matter is, when you have inarticulate nominees like Romney who just go around the country uttering platitudes with no specific plans and who have the kid gloves on with probably the most radically left president in the United States, you can't be surprised when you lose. So unless we, the people, again, start holding our government officials, elected officials, accountable and letting them know what the standard is, then, again, we're just going to get more of the same Mitt Romney, John McCain, Bob Dole, platitudinous, boring, dull white guys walking around the country losing to liberals. And so, with regard to and there's so much opportunity, but there are very few articulate spokespeople in the Republican Party, and that's probably the biggest deficit that I see, is that there aren't. I mean, Mitt Romney had an amazing opportunity. Unfortunately, he was the wrong guy because he didn't really believe in any of the things that Representative Carter talked about. How can you talk about low taxes when you raise taxes by almost $1 billion in Massachusetts and sign Romneycare into law, which decimated the Massachusetts economy? How can you talk about the sanctity of human life and that in the black community alone, 40% of all abortions, I mean, it's a black genocide when you talk about abortion. And so how can you talk about the sanctity of human life when you're running a guy that signed $50 taxpayer-funded abortions into law as Mitt Romney did? How can you talk about marriage and how important it is to the Hispanic community and minority communities and the young people and God's institution of marriage when you yourself were the founding father of same-sex marriage in Massachusetts? So, again, we get the government we deserve, and until we start running candidates who actually believe in the creed of the party of Lincoln and Reagan, of the Republican Party, and who will abide by it.
Hold that point. We're coming back. Representative Stephanie Carter and Greg Jackson. I'm Armstrong Williams.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lorette is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lorette's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lorette Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lorette today, www.lorette.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. You know, I'm just curious, Representative Carter. All the things that Greg Jackson speaks of were embodied in Mia Love and Congressman Allen West. Can you help us understand what happened to Allen West?
Well, I haven't analyzed Congressman West's race because, to tell you the truth, I just got out of my own race, and unfortunately, Allen West lost. Fortunately, we won, but I will say that he'll be a loss. His loss will be a loss to the nation. But let me just address something. I think, with all due respect, he's Greg, maybe.
No, not so fast. We need you to tell us why he lost.
Well,
I have an idea.
I know you do, but I want to ask the representative first, because you seem to be uncomfortable with this question.
No, I haven't analyzed his race. I mean,
you don't have to. You really need to analyze it to come to a conclusion.
I really don't know. I just got out of my own race, so. But I will say that Governor Romney. I lived in Massachusetts when Governor Romney was governor, and here's the reality. I mean, he added tens of thousands of jobs, and the unemployment rate fell during his term below 5%, and to 4.7%, and he grew the per capita income by something like 14%, and I think he did a good job in Massachusetts, and certainly compared with President Obama. I mean, my goodness, Mitt Romney, I believe, created more jobs in Massachusetts than President Obama has for the entire nation. And I think it's easy to look back and say, well, we could have, would have, and should have, but the reality is Mitt Romney was a particularly articulate candidate. I'm going to disagree with the statement that he was inarticulate. I mean, my goodness, he's a Harvard business, Harvard law.
I don't care where he went to school.
Has amazing experience both at the Olympics, both at the governor's mansion, and in the private sector. And so, and I think that his agenda for a better America was on point with regard to the Republican Party. I think if he had won, he would certainly restore America and put good energy security and American jobs in place and get rid of some of the terrible regulations that President Obama has put in place. He would be for tax reform. And so overall, if you compare the two candidates, I mean, I think it's very clear, and all Republicans should be able to agree that there was a clear record of success, I think, for Governor Romney, and just a ton of failures for President Obama. And so I sure do disagree with the comments made about the governor, and think that that had nothing to do with the loss. I think that we have had the analysis of different groups voting at the same rate as or higher rate as they did before in the categories of single women, Hispanics, blacks, and our youth. And I think that the key is reaching out to those demographics and working on the ground, as I mentioned earlier.
I disagree, Representative Carter. Look, I covered Mitt Romney on the radio for 4 years in Massachusetts. I was on WRKO. I introduced him 2 years in a row at the Conservative Political Action Conference, and I probably without bragging, know his record more than anybody else in the United States of America. Job creation was 47th out of 50 states in Massachusetts. Mitt Romney signed into law almost $1 billion of tax hikes and fees, which decimated the Massachusetts economy, along with Romney Care, which was the original socialist health care in America. Mitt Romney signed in $50 taxpayer-funded abortions. He institutionalized homosexual marriage in Massachusetts. He's not a good man. He doesn't have a good vision. He signed the death warrants of tiny babies at $50 a pop. And if we as Christians can't recognize pure evil when it's looking at us straight in the face, then our country is in worse a situation than I previously thought. So I don't agree with you that Mitt Romney would have been a good president at all. I think he would have been a wolf in sheep's clothing, because a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. And when you're talking about the man who made tens of millions of dollars on an investment in the world's largest baby body parts incineration and disposal company, Stericycle, then you're talking about a wicked and evil man. So no, I don't agree with you that Mitt Romney, and apparently there were tens of millions of evangelical Christians and conservatives who agreed with me, or they would have beaten, because with an authentic conservative representative, Carter, I believe that Obama should have gotten beat like a drum by 20 points. The fact of the matter is, we put up a liberal that on paper was even to the left of Obama, and we got the government we deserve because we compromised on our core values and beliefs by putting this joker up in the first place.
Did you, Greg, I'm curious, did you see the Dick Morris analysis about if we concede those demographics that I mentioned?
I'm not talking about conceding those demographics, Stephanie.
Well, no.
But I wouldn't put too much credence on anything that Dick Morris, who said that Romney was going to win in a landslide, says anyways. He's about the biggest Republican hack in the media.
If we lose those four categories, he concluded, regardless, if we lose them or concede them, then we have to, as Republicans, win 2/3 of the remaining electorate. That is difficult for anyone to do, and Mitt Romney became very close, but he did not do it. And so everything
he came close. He got whipped in basically a landslide, Stephanie. He got spanked. It wasn't close.
The point is, we as Republicans have to have gains in these demographics. I think that you and I could agree on that.
Oh, absolutely, Stephanie. I agree. By putting up candidates.
So the question is really not let's just criticize Mitt Romney, but if we're talking about a better tomorrow and what are we going to do, I think instead of just bashing the guy who won,
I'm just stating the facts and refuting what you said falsely about him.
And well, what I said wasn't false. I mean, the facts are the facts, but I mean, you said the economy was obliterated, but it was, the unemployment rate was under 5%.
Well, yeah, that was during the Bush boom times when there was not one economy that wasn't under 5%. We were 47th in job growth. Google DeRoy Murdoch's article in the American Spectator called the mythical mass miracle, and you get the inside statistics on that.
Well, your statement that there was no economy and over 5% is just factually incorrect.
Let me go back.
But in any case, the point is, for the next
47th in job growth.
We have to work on those demographics, and the question isn't who could have been a better candidate than Mitt Romney.
How about an authentic conservative? How about an authentic pro-life, pro-family, pro-fiscally conservative candidate instead of an uber-liberal limousine crony capitalist like Mitt Romney? Can we agree that maybe if we had actually put up somebody that believed in those values, that they would have had a better chance than an uber liberal like Romney?
I think that we really have to be on the ground in communities talking with people about the Republican message. I mean, I think that that's critical. So
well, I don't disagree, but that's not what we're talking about.
Well, but no, I mean, but the point is, regardless of who it is, we have to be joining forces with people. We have to be talking with them one-on-one. We have to have basically a presidential ground game in which we get out the message about, I think, fiscal issues and job creation and
well, that's all true, but it's really kind of a moot point when the titular head of that movement, the Republican nominee for president, has spent his entire career virtually undermining those same values and beliefs. So until we get that right, we're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse.
You know what? I actually see so many of Obama's policies which far outweigh Mitt Romney's. It's so detrimental to this country. I mean, he's so philosophical. I've never seen anybody so anti to our faith and Christian beliefs. And I don't want to just make it seem as though that Mitt Romney was the worst of the worst, because that's not the case. But to just focus on Mitt Romney and not talk about what we are left with, I think does a disservice to this conversation.
No, I agree.
I completely agree with that. I mean, my goodness. I mean, let's talk about the future. And, I mean, were you helping the governor get elected? Were you out there?
Absolutely not. No, I wouldn't cast a vote for wicked and evil child murder. How about you, Stephanie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality
Why would you help a person like Mitt Romney get elected?
That's not fair, Greg. I mean, this is America. That's our choice. Come on now.
It is. You're right, Armstrong. But I'm asking a simple question. Why would you help somebody like Mitt Romney knowing what you know about his record?
Because Obama was the option.
Well, without helping you.
Well, there were other candidates. I voted for another candidate. I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. And apparently there were tens of millions of other Christians who didn't either.
That was step one. But when Governor Romney won the primary, if you did not help him get elected, you were part of the problem, with all due respect. So
if I didn't help him get elected, I'm part of the problem?
Correct.
By not voting for a child-killing pro-homosexual socialist, I'm part of the problem?
By not helping get Romney elected, you helped President Obama get elected.
Oh, no, I helped an actual authentic pro-life, pro-rule of law, fiscally conservative candidate try to get elected. Why didn't you try to get that candidate elected?
But I think
Look, we're not going to get back in this.
Come on,
this conversation. We don't need to take the conversation to this point. I want you to explain to me, though, in the little time we have left, what happened to Allen West. Greg?
Well, look, the bottom line is, when you have somebody like Mitt Romney as on the head of the ticket, it drags everything else down.
Oh, come on. Most Republicans won. You can't use that argument.
Homosexual marriage amendments that all went down, right? So look, when you don't have an enthusiastic base who would normally support that, elections do have consequences.
Most Republicans won re-election, Greg.
For the same reason.
Most of them won re-election. Come on.
What's that?
Most of the Republicans won re-election.
No, but I'm talking about initiatives which are, I think, pretty important when you're talking about marriage amendments in various states.
You know, one of these days I'm going to just have to call you when we're not in the public, and you just got to tell me what really happened between you and Mitt Romney, because it's deep.
No, it's not.
What really happened?
What really happened? I'm just reporting the facts. I'm giving you the
but
truth.
you're harsh, brother. You're a good man, but I hear some venom today. That's unusual
No
from you.
venom. I'm just glad he's
Representative
gone,
Carter,
Armstrong.
Greg Jackson, thank you both so much for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Armstrong.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
The sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.